Hey everyone, my name's Tom and today we're going to take a look at the HP Envy 13-inch x360 convertible using AMD Ryzen hardware. Now this is a very special laptop. This is going to be my new mobile main device and it is, I think, one of the best laptops you can get out there right now. It is just such a complete package. Alright, but let's run through what you're getting first. So this laptop has been making some waves for a few reasons. Most of all, it is one of the first really nice laptops that comes with AMD's new line of mobile processors. So this one has the AMD Ryzen Mobile 2500U with Vega 8 graphics, which is their mid-range processor, which goes directly head-to-head with Intel's 8250U quad-core processor. This is also a quad-core processor, and it gets about the same benchmark scores as the Intel 8250U, but it has AMD Vega 8 graphics built in, and that is just a whole nother level of performance compared to the Intel 620 UHD. But let's take a step back first. So this is obviously, what looks like a laptop. This is a nice 13-inch device. It is relatively light. It is a bit over 2 pounds. I think it's like 2.5 pounds. It is 1.3 kilogram. It really feels good in the hand with an all aluminum chassis. It's aluminum on the bottom, aluminum up top, and even the armrest is all aluminum. What I really like about the build is, first of all, it feels good. It looks good, and it has these subtle hints, like for example on an Apple device, if you ever touched this little cutout that you reach in to flip open the screen, which by the way you can do with one hand, which is fantastic. The Apple devices are always kind of sharp. This is super smooth, so if you use your laptop like this, it's not gonna scratch open your wrist, which I think is a really nice feature. Also, these edges right here are subtly rounded over, which feels so good to the hand. Even the speaker grill up here has some sort of treatment that doesn't make it feel like a cheese grater like some other aluminum chassis. So that just feels, the entire thing just feels like a very premium laptop. There's no flex in the keyboard, there's no flex anywhere in here. And that is just, it feels like a really good laptop. So moving around the case here, let's start on the left side. So we have one full-size USB-A 3.1 port. We have a headphone jack and the power button, which as you can see has like its standby and power LED right in the center here. We have a vent and we have a micro SD card slot. On the other side, we have the regular barrel jack power input, though I believe you can also charge it through the USB Type-C port, which is a 3.1 obviously, and we have another USB 3 port in the full A size. There's no HDMI on here, there's no Ethernet in here, but you can get those adapters relatively cheaply thanks to Apple building a device that only has a single USB Type-C port. There's also a volume rocker over here, which is accessible both in desktop mode, so like this, you can use this, but also in full-on tablet mode. So this, of course, is one of the nice features of this device. It is not just a laptop, though by the size and by the form factor of this device, it is mostly a laptop, but you can also use it, of course, with the screen flat down, which is a ThinkPad feature that a lot of people love and I think is also pretty neat. You can use it in tent mode like this, and you can use it as a full-on handheld tablet. Yes, you do touch the keyboard back here, you do get used to that, but you can hold it like this. Being relatively light and being a 13-inch device, it is still, for a tablet, it is relatively heavy and relatively large, but it is much more holdable like this than something like a 14 or a 15-inch device. So if you take a bit of a tour of the inside of this laptop or convertible. So starting at the top, we have the screen. Now this screen is good. This is a really solid screen. Viewing angles are fantastic, like even from the side, even from a really steep angle, there's very little color degradation or loss in brightness. It is a really solid IPS screen. It goes relatively bright. It's not the brightest screen ever, but it is definitely usable outside in the shade. Maybe not in direct sunlight though. The colors are good. It does have a bit of a yellow tint. It is a bit too warm from the factory, but you can correct that in the graphics setting. Moving down here, we have a speaker grill. There are 2 speakers in here, and then there's another 2 speakers on the bottom of the device. So in laptop mode, these are always on. All 4 speakers are always firing. So in laptop mode, you have a bit of sound reflecting off of the surface and coming directly at you. And in tablet mode like this, you have these 2 speakers back here firing at you and the other ones firing away from you. So no matter how you hold this, you always have decent audio. It's not fantastic audio for a 13-inch, of course. It is still a thin and light, but the audio is okay. And what I kind of like is, because it has those 4 speakers, it feels like the sound is radiating from this bottom unit. It's not coming from the speakers, it's just coming from somewhere in here, which is kind of nice. The keyboard, as you can see, is backlit. It is a gray gunmetal kind of color. It just has a backlight on and off, and it's really usable. This gray one is legible both with the backlight off and with it on in pretty much any condition. It has a decently sized trackpad below here, and I don't use it much because I mostly just reach out for the screen. But if you ever have to use this trackpad, it is a very solid trackpad. It feels good, it doesn't have any lag, and it always gets me where I want to. Now, one thing you might have already noticed while we had the laptop open, if I can lock it again, you can see these 2 illuminators over here and the 2 webcams up top here. And this is actually a Windows Hello camera. So this has an infrared blaster and an infrared camera. So as soon as you look at the laptop, it automatically unlocks itself without you having to input any kind of PIN or password or anything, or even use a fingerprint. You just look at it, it unlocks. I've tried it with other people. It is very robust. It never let anyone else in. And it, most of the time, unless you're out in bright sunlight, it works very reliably. Now, if you actually want to dive into the specs that this laptop comes with, of course, here in Germany, we only get a handful of models to pick from. In the States, you can pretty much freely configure this. This one is the mid-range option, I guess, or mid to high-range option, which is the AMD Ryzen 2500U, which is, again, the quad-core plus the Vega 8. It has 16 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM. It has a 512 gigabyte NVMe drive, which is actually a really quick drive. I wish that I could have configured this with the Ryzen 2700U that comes with the Vega 10 graphics, so it has 10 compute units instead of 8. However, that configuration apparently isn't available with the 16 gigabytes of RAM, so it is either get the faster processor and 8 gigabytes of RAM, or get 16 gigabytes, but the slower processor. And for me, that was an easy choice to go for more RAM, since I'm going to be using this for some light video editing on the go before I actually move it over to my workstation and render it out there. The only part in this laptop that is actually upgradable is the SSD, and in fact I will be putting in a 1TB Samsung 970 just because I need that extra storage. So performance-wise, this is really, really good. It is a really thin laptop, which is fantastic. It does have a fan. It is not a passively cooled laptop, and as soon as you put any sort of load on it, this fan does spin up. It never gets noisy, but it can get quite hot since this is a metal chassis. So in benchmarks, this laptop is actually about on par with the Intel chips that directly compete with it, at least when it comes to CPU performance. When it comes to GPU, it smokes the Intel chips. Running Firestrike on this, it gets about 2000 points, whereas the Intel 8250U gets about 700, which is about 3 times, by the way. That advantage kind of diminishes as you go into simpler scenes and older benchmarks, but the Radeon chip always pulls out ahead of the Intel when it comes to graphics performance. Now, you might think more performance means less battery life, but because this is all just one chip, this is just a highly integrated IC that does not just CPU and graphics, but also, some peripherals. It's all highly and tightly integrated. Battery life is actually quite good. Now, of course, having a 53 watt-hour battery in this unit, which probably takes up like, 2/3 of this chassis, does help, but I easily get 6 to 7 hours of battery life with mixed use, watching some YouTube videos, doing some Office, doing some emails with full brightness. 6 to 7 hours is easy. They claim 11 hours maximum, but while I think that is achievable, it's probably not something that you're going to get in day-to-day use, especially with the screen at a higher brightness setting. Yes, if you turn it down and if you turn off Wi-Fi and all that, you might get to that. But overall, it is a strong performer when it comes to battery life, and especially because you don't have to make any compromises for performance. This is not a gimped CPU. This is not a limited CPU. This is a powerhouse of a device in a 13-inch form factor with a bright screen, with a good keyboard, with the option of having a convertible device right there, and of course the touchscreen in laptop mode. Now, all these gimmicks of being, a convertible device, of being able to flip it over like that, I don't think they would be worth anything if this wasn't what it's supposed to be first and foremost, which is a laptop, and wouldn't do that really well. However, even if you just ignore all the facts that it does that, it is still a very solid laptop. I really love the Windows Hello camera up there. I didn't think it would be that big of a deal, but it's just, yeah, you open up your laptop and you're just logged in immediately. I like the fact that the keyboard is just a really nice, usable, solid model. It feels great to type on. It is very nicely visible. I like the screen. I like the fact that it is thin. It has good battery life. This is, I think, one of the, if not very much the best laptop out on the market right now, especially, get this one was 999 euros. It's an all aluminum build. It has a quad core. It has a potent graphics card. It has a 512 gigabyte SSD in there. It has a good screen. I don't think there's any laptop out there that gives you more bang for your buck right now. And get this is already one of the higher end models. If you get the base model, it starts at I think $750, which is insanely good. So I really love what AMD did with this by providing a good value core processor and core components for this. I think it enabled HP to just spend so much more on a really nice feeling chassis, on a good screen, on gimmicks like, well, not gimmicks, but useful things like the Windows Hello camera and a bigger battery, and making a really good device without paying half of the device cost just for the CPU. So if you're in the market for a 13-inch device, even if you're not looking for a convertible, definitely consider this. This is a really well-rounded laptop, and again, if you're just looking for a laptop, it's a great device, but you're getting the touchscreen and the convertible functions for free thrown in there. So I hope you like this one. Let me know what you think about this review and about this style in the comments below. If you want to get one of these, I'll leave the links to that in the video description. And as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.